For the fifth year in a row, the Territorial Cup is staying in Tempe. Hi, everybody, and welcome into our post-game show. I'm Zach Keenan. With me, our publisher, Hode Rubino, for DevilsDigest.com. Following a convincing 38-15 victory for the Sun Devils over the University of Arizona Wildcats. And Hode, will begin our preview. Before we go to the run game and the offense, it's important to note that the last time that ASU won 5 Territorial Cups in a row was 1969. Do you know anything that happened that year?
Yeah, it was the year I was born, so 52 years old, never looked better, right? Okay, you don't have to answer that question. But yes, it was somewhat uncharted territory, if you will, for Arizona State to enter, because this is a rivalry that in many years just went back and forth, nobody really getting a whole lot more than 2-3 wins in a row, I would say, in the last 10, 15 years up until this winning streak that you mentioned by Arizona State. And I think it was a game that, in many regards, we talked about in our preview. We thought U of A is going to come out heavily motivated, maybe punch ASU a little on defense. That did happen to some extent, although U of A came back with their trips in the red zone in the first half with field goals and not touchdowns. And I think that allowed ASU, even on a so-so offensive game, to still be able to be ahead of U of A at halftime. And in the second half, I think the defense showed up like it always has, usually in the second half, only limiting U of A to 6 points, even though it really was a failed two-point conversion, didn't make it 7. But nonetheless, I think, again, the script that we thought that was going to happen prior to the game really did take place. I picked ASU to win 34-17. Even that score wasn't too far off. So really, I mean, a lot of predictability, I would say, on both teams, on both sides of the ball.
We really dive into this offense and look at Jaden Daniels. He had a great game, 2 passing touchdowns, both to Ricky Pearsall. Always good to see in a Territorial Cup game are those local guys getting big plays. Ricky Pearsall had 2 of them, and Jaden Daniels, just to boot, he ran one in on his own feet. How'd you see what did you see out of that offense today?
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels, that 48-yard run for a touchdown, obviously was a highlight of his rushing abilities today. And Zach Hill, the offensive coordinator, joked after the game that, yeah, sure, it was designed, having a big smile on his face, because when you run from an empty backfield, usually you're really looking for a wide receiver down the field. And I think there definitely were some miscommunications between Jaden Daniels and his wide receivers. Not really a whole lot different than we've seen in recent weeks. Jaden Daniels ends the month of November without a passing game over 200 yards, and today he actually passed under 100 yards. Now, sure, you can say that the rushing abilities for Jaden Daniels were able to compensate somewhat of the passing game, but we thought that maybe, just maybe, we would see a cleaner passing game from Arizona State today. On the other hand, we knew that U of A came in third in the Pac-12, 25 in the country in pass defense, and I think that it did make life somewhat hard for Arizona State, but I think also the Sun Devils, per usual, probably made life a little harder for them too when it came to the passing game. But when it came from the running game, Jaden Daniels did his thing. Rashad White, 98 yards rushing. As a whole, Arizona State rushes for 238 yards. And going back again to our preview, we knew that ASU may have a hard time passing on this Arizona defense, but on the other hand, there's no reason in the world why they cannot run the ball up and down the throat, and that definitely happened today. And without that happening, I think this game could get maybe a little more interesting than it really did. But overall, I think that Arizona State really just had a typical offensive game. So you're definitely happy about another punishing ground attack. But the passing game, Zach Hill said after the game, that's something that is definitely still work in progress. It definitely needs to improve, not only for the ball game, but really for the 2022 season.
Arizona's offense came out early, and they were running down the field. It was a high-tempo offense. There were a lot of trick plays, a lot of misdirection and motion, and it looked like the ASU defense was starting to struggle. But they were able to hold them to field goals within the red zone, and then from there, just tons of highlights plays, Hode. Jack Jones ripping the quarterback, and then Tyler Johnson comes in, recovers the fumble, and takes it all the way down to the goal line, if not the 3-yard line. And then Jack Jones, his first career pick 6, all the way when U of A has the ball inside the ASU 5. Wouldn't call it a game-saving play, but all these things combined for a highlight reel on defense.
Yeah, and first of all, look, let's give credit where credit is due. Will Plummer, we talked coming into this game, maybe a quarterback that ASU did not have to really fear in terms of his passing capabilities, has a career game against ASU. He was averaging 140 yards per game. He actually passed for 346 yards, but this was a very one-dimensional offense. And even though your quarterback is absolutely going off, having a career game, when you're only rushing for 50 yards, when the Arizona State defense really shows up in the sack department, finally recording not one, but I think 3 or 4 sacks after not recording sacks in five straight games, I think that really helped. Just a defense to really key in on an offense, which, like I said, was really one-dimensional. I think really played to the hands of Arizona State, and I think the pick 6 by Jack Jones is definitely a testament of that. Obviously, really happy for Jack Jones. I mean, his story is well known. Somebody who came out of high school as a very heralded 5-star recruit, did not have a great career at USC. Had off-the-field incident after he left USC. Because of his connection with his old high school coach and now current defensive coordinator, Antonio Pierce, he comes back into ASU, and I think really, all in all, had a pretty solid career over here at Arizona State. I know he was suspended for most of the 2020 season, so that's a blemish. But that also showed somebody who definitely had to go through a growth process on and off the field. And I think all in all, for what you saw from Jack Jones today and really the entire 2021 season, I think you really have to tip your hat for Jones for really turning his game around. He's somebody who does have a young mouth to feed, and now is going to try his luck with the NFL to play on Sundays, and is really a player that it's really easy to root for. I would say when you talk about Jack Jones. But yeah, this defense, again, going back to my earlier point. Not that they really struggled in the first half, but in the second half, it does seem every week they really put on the clamps. And if the opponent scores more than a touchdown, you think like something's wrong, because that is definitely the exception and not the norm. Like you said, the Jack Jones pick 6 was probably icing on the cake. I don't think it really saved the game for ASU, but I think it's a great comfort for this ASU offense to know that even if they somewhat struggle in the first half, that the second half this defense is definitely going to have their back, and if they're able to just slowly but surely get into the game, the defense is going to do their part, really, slowing down the opponent. So just another solid job by Arizona State. Again, the numbers may look a little ugly when you look at Will Plummer and his 346-yard passing. But again, when you're playing a one-dimensional offense, that a lot of it is really the defense dictating its will. And conversely, U of A, even with the big passing game from their quarterback, really were not able to do a whole lot against the Sun Devil defense.
ASU will finish their regular season 8-4 this year. That will match their win total from the most recent full season. That was 2019, when they lost to Fresno State and they ended up 8-5. Now, we talk about bowl games, Hode, and I know there's been some discussions. It sounds like the most likely at the moment are the Alamo Bowl and the Las Vegas Bowl. That being said, there also was some big news that came out pregame today, and that was Herm Edwards going on Pac-12 Network saying that he is the guy next year. And then Ray Anderson, as Chase Lucas just told us postgame, that Ray Anderson came into the locker room pregame and told all the guys that Herm Edwards is still their coach moving forward. So that being said, do you think that any news of other coaching shakeups may still take place?
Yeah, we really talked a lot about it in the huddle the last couple of days. I do expect some shift with assistant coaches. Don't forget, ASU has not one, not two, but 3 interim assistant coaches right now. You kind of wonder, are those coaches going to be permanent come the 2022 season? That's something that's really interesting to see. There's some other moves I think that might happen. This is probably not the place and time to talk about it. That's why we have our premium message, The Huddle, and a great promotion right now, $20.21 for the entire 12-month subscription as a new subscriber. So I would definitely encourage you to go in there. We also talk about some players that may or may not be back. I mean, just don't think because you saw some players getting honored over here on Senior Day that they may not be back for the 2022 season. So I think that the offseason, now that it really started, I know there's going to be a postseason with the bowl game, but really in effect, a lot of the moves that you expect to happen in the next week or two after the regular season with a lot of programs are definitely going to happen here at Tempe. Again, maybe assistant coaches moves not happening until later in December, maybe even January. But as far as players staying, going, playing in the bowl game, not playing in the bowl game, I think there's going to be really a lot to follow. But it's nice for the Sun Devils on a really tough year to end, at least with on a sweet note, going 5-0 in the last 5 years against the rival. And we see if the post game they can actually win a contest, which actually would make this the best year in Herm Edwards' era, achieving that 9th win. And I know when you and I talked before the season, talk about a 9-win season probably was somewhat a disappointment, and maybe still would be even if ASU did win that ball game. But give credit for this team that really has been through hell and back. We already know everything that happened off the field all the way back in June. So maybe there were just a lot of elements that really worked against this team to have the year that everybody thought they're going to have. But I think these coaches and players are enough, man enough, if you will, to just look in the mirror and know that they definitely did leave some points on the board. They left some plays on the field in a lot of those losses. And we'll see if that they can correct those for the 2022 season and really for the bowl game. I would say sometime in December. It really would be nice to see this team end the 2021 season with a win in the postseason. But there's definitely a lot to fix with this program, and we're going to talk a lot about it in the days and weeks to come.
If there were ever an offseason to join the Devil's Digest huddle, it's this offseason. There's a lot of things that could change and some players who could stay. So I'd absolutely hop over to DevilsDigest.com and subscribe if you haven't already. In addition, give us a follow on Twitter at Devil's Digest. ASU 5 straight Territorial Cups, 38-15 the final score in Tempe. Alongside our publisher, Hode Rubino, I'm Zach Keenan, signing off.